One thing we found out when the first Doctor Strange film was announced was the fact that the original pitch video made by the director Scott Derrickson included the character of Nightmare, who he said he didn't want to use in the first film, but he was going to be the focus of the second film. Of course, the second film has been out for a while now, and well, there's no Nightmare to speak of because there's no Scott Derrickson to speak of because he didn't direct it. So let's talk about the Nightmare effect and his role on the original script of Doctor Strange 2. So if you just think back to after Doctor Strange 1, they teased that Doctor Strange would be facing Nightmare and that the film would be about the Nightmare realm. Now, of course, the character of Nightmare was something that they wanted very early on, and it looked like they were gonna go that route, but then the whole multiverse thing happened, and then it sounds like the character pretty much took a backseat in every subsequent draft. Well, recently, the writer of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Michael Waldron, spoke to Den of Geek about the film and specifically the inclusion of Nightmare very early on. So he said, and I quote, "There was different stuff. I think it's been reported that once upon a time there was some talk of a Nightmare and stuff like that. But when I came on board, it was a multiverse story, and so it was always about trying to figure out who that multiverse adversary was going to be." End quote. And he does have a little bit more about when he came on board in February of 2020, and he once again reiterates that due to the shifting location / releases / everything, all the circumstances surrounding Spider-Man and Doctor Strange swapping, that the script he had to be rewritten from the ground up. They kept nothing from the original, and him and Sam Raimi were just given a free slate to do what they wanted. They didn't have really anything like Nightmare imposed on them or anything. They just had to come up with their own ideas and how to tie all this together. And he specifically said that the reason he got this, he believes, is because of his work with doing the multiverse stuff that people already loved with Loki. So essentially, he was going to approach this the same way. Let's come up with the concept that works here. If Nightmare ends up in it, then we'll see what happens, but it's not necessarily a piece of the puzzle. And I think right there, he kind of tells you exactly what happened. So he was in the original scripts, but he never saw those, because the reason the original script writers are not credited at all and the original director is because they kept nothing of their work. They completely redid the sequel. So whatever happened to Nightmare in those old scripts is, well, it's gone. We'll never see the light of day for that because, again, that's old. So Nightmare was in the early drafts, obviously the drafts that started work right after the first film, but eventually by February of 2022, there was no mention of the character and he was never going to be in it.